Well, hello, my darlings, and welcome back to our channel. I am so glad you are here. Today on our channel, I am going to show you how to make a table arch with a mini chandelier. I sure hope you'll stay tuned. For this project, you will need one 24-inch wooden dowel. You will need some greening pins. You will need 8 5-inch square mirrors. You will need 2 of these styrofoam 4.8-inch cubes. You will need a roll of floral embellishments. You will need a mini chandelier of your choosing. You will also need 6 of these dry foam bricks and 2 packs of these white floral garlands. Of course, you will need your handy dandy tools, and today we are going to be working with our tape measure. Let's get crafting. So of course, the first thing that you do whenever we're working with styrofoam is you're going to get a black piece of felt and you're going to cover the bottom of your foam using your hot glue. Once you have done that, we are going to take our 4 mirrors and we're going to place them one on each side of our foam. But before we do that, we're first going to remove all of those felt pieces. The sticker, of course, can stay. Now, once you have taken all of your felt pieces off, you're going to take your hot glue gun, making sure to hit every corner, every side of that cube. Once you have placed that foundation down, you will go ahead and fill in your hot glue on the middle of the face of that cube. And once you have filled in your entire foundation, you are then going to place your mirror on the cube and you are going to make sure you're finding the correct placement so the mirror is not hanging off to the left or to the right, but rather is centered. Once you have done that, you will repeat that process 3 more times. So here we have our cube that has been completely etched out with our mirrors and of course the bottom covered in black felt. Now that we have done that, we are going to embellish the sides of our cube, or rather the edges of our cube, with our floral embellishments. To do this, I cut each strip into a total of 8 flowers long, and what I'm going to do to adhere them to my cube is I'm going to place a dollop of hot glue behind each one of those flowers. Not too much, you don't want it to ooze out, but a dollop of hot glue behind each one of those flowers. And then once I have done that, I'm going to pick it up very carefully without getting burnt, and I'm simply going to place it on the edge of each one of those sides. Now, if you notice, I'm applying some pressure to make sure that that hot glue engages with the edges of the mirror. And also, if you notice, that 8th one is going to hang just a little bit above the mirrors. So here we have our cube that has been embellished all the way around on all of our edges. And now what we are going to do is we are going to build up one side of our arch. Now, before we can start putting any of this together, we're going to measure each side of the face of that cube so that we will be able to find our center. Now, of course, the cube is 5 inches wide all the way around, and so half of 5 is going to give us 2.5. So what you see I'm doing here is I am making my 2.5 mark on each side of that cube. Once I have done that, I will have a better understanding of where to place my foam bricks when it is time to lay those on top. So now that I have placed my last mark of 2.5 inches on each side of that face. I am now going to measure my dry foam, and this is 3 inches wide, which means half of 3 is going to be 1.5 inches. I take that back. It is actually 3.5 inches wide. So half of 3 is 1.5, and half of a half is a quarter. So this is 1 3/4 inches is going to make my half. And once I find that half, I'm going to simply make a little dot or mark where that half is on my styrofoam brick. This is going to help me, my darlings, to match up where I will need to place this foam brick exactly where to have my column centered to perfection. So once I have done that, there's no need to measure it for the second one because we're going to be building up our arch 2 bricks high. Once I have done that, it is now time for me to start building my piece up. Here I am looking for where I made my measurements, and I'm lining up those nick marks with the center of my brick and the center of my white styrofoam. Once I have done that, I'm taking my hot glue gun and I am simply going around each edge of that styrofoam brick. I'm not putting any glue in the middle, and you will see why shortly. Once I have placed that foundation of glue down, what I will do is hold it into place for a few moments. Make sure that it is centered directly from left to right, of course, and top to bottom. And once I have done that, I am then going to make sure I'm measuring to make sure I have 1 1/4 inches on one side, 1 1/4 inches on the other side, and I know that my piece has been centered. Now that I have centered that bottom piece, I am simply going to take, once again, my hot glue gun and place a stream of hot glue around the edges only. Once I have placed that hot glue around the edge, I will then glue it to the first brick that we laid down, and then I am going to set this off to dry for a few moments. So here we have our one column that has been built up using our foam cube and 2 bricks. And now what we're going to do is measure our 24-inch dowel just to the top of that column. The reason why we're doing this, of course, is because we need just enough of that dowel to embed it into our foam with a little piece of that dowel sticking out. Now, to prepare my dowel, I am simply taking my wire cutter and I'm scoring around that dowel, turning it repeatedly around and around and around. And once I think I have made enough etchings in that dowel, I'm simply going to bend it, and it is going to break right where I scored it. Now, what we're going to do now is we are going to bury this dowel into our styrofoam. And the reason why I told you not to place any of that hot glue in the middle of those styrofoam bricks is because I did not want anything impeding the flow of that dowel into our styrofoam sponge. Now, it is easier to get the dowel through the, I said styrofoam sponge, foam. It is easier to get the dowel through the dry foam much more than it is to get it through the styrofoam. So what you see I'm doing here is I'm using my level as a hammer. I should have gotten a mallet, but it's okay. And I have pounded it into place. So here we have both columns that we have made, the second one just following the same template as I have shared with you. And what we are going to do now is make our overhead bar that is going to connect these two columns to make our arch. Now, all we're going to do for this part is we are going to glue these two styrofoam bricks together in much the same way as we did the other two, by going in on the sides and not placing any hot glue in the middle so that our rod is not going to be impeded in any way. Once you have placed your glue and allowed it to dry for a few moments, you're then going to take one of your leftover rods to bury it inside of your overhead bar. Now, in the essence of time and to honor your time, I chose to do this in one take, and so my glue is not as dry as I would want it to be, or I would recommend yours to be, and you will see why in a few moments. But once you have allowed your glue to dry, my darlings, I would suggest maybe for about 3 to 5 minutes. What you're going to do next is take your dowel and bury it directly down the middle of those two styrofoam bricks. See how I'm having to line them back up again because it was not dry. And so by using your hammer, preferably a mallet, rubber mallet, and pounding that bar all the way in, what we are in essence doing with those dowels is shoring up our piece to make sure that they are going to be 100% sturdy. Once you have created your overhead bar, we are now going to put the final touch on our arch by bringing our two columns together, equidistant one from the other, and then placing those two styrofoam bricks on top and burying them on the pieces of dowel that have been left out. Now, in order to ensure that this piece as well is secure, again, I'm going around the edges of that styrofoam brick. I'm placing a little bit of glue on the dowels that are sticking out, and then I am placing that bar right back into place. Once I have done that, I'm going to apply some pressure, make sure I have my spacing correct, make sure that it is leveled, perfect. I'm doing my happy dance. And then I'm going to set this aside to make sure that all of that hot glue is dried into place. So here we have our column that we have created, which is very sturdy thanks to the dowels that we have anchored into our foam. And what we are going to do now is my favorite part, and we are ready to embellish. Now, when my darlings, saw this beautiful mini chandelier, I knew, I have several designs, and I knew for sure that this chandelier was going to end up in this very design. It has two settings: an on setting where the light will stay on until you turn it off, and it also has a motion sense setting, so if it detects movement, it will turn on. So now, because I am going to reuse this, I'm not placing much hot glue on my chandelier. But again, if you are going to be using this for an event, I would suggest using a lot more than just hot glue, because whereas hot glue is going to give you an okay adhesion, you do not want that during your event your chandelier is going to come crashing down. And so once I have placed my chandelier, to make sure that its space has been secured, I am now going to take my floral garland and I am going to start to run it up and around my arch. Now, how I'm anchoring this is by using my greening pins, again, not by using any glue, but just some greening pins in random places, random but strategic, to make sure that this garland does not fall down at your event. So I am going to continue laying my garlands. This is actually going to take me 2 bags of those garlands, and in the green spaces that you're seeing there, I will embellish them with some additional flowers, roses, hydrangeas, some greenery, so that we can fill in the flowers of this piece. So here we have our arch that we have wrapped in our flower garland, and as you can see, this is going to be yet another stunning piece, my darlings. So now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take some other flowers and I'm going to use them to fill in those green spaces where you can still see our dry foam sticking out. I'm going to be using a combination of some roses as well as some hydrangea heads, and then if there are any additional spaces left, I'm going to get some of the foliage, some of the leaves off of the bunches of roses that I'm using, and I'm going to place them to fill those in. When I'm finished, I will clean this up, clean the glass, my darlings. I will remove any glue fronds there are. I will stage this, and then I will be back to show you what our finished project looks like. Well, here you have it, my darlings. Our table arch with a mini chandelier. Isn't this just beautiful? Listen, I am tickled pink, not necessarily because this is a gorgeous piece, which it is, my darlings, but simply because I was able to bring a vision I had in my mind to fruition and do it in excellence, my darlings. I think I would have to say that we have nailed yet another project. Now, if I have to say what my favorite part of this project would be, I would be at a loss for words. I am equally in love with the mini chandelier as I am with the structure of our piece, as I am with the fullness of the flowers and the mirrored anchor that we have set on both legs. I would not be able to say, my darlings, what would be my favorite piece at all, because I would truly have to say that this piece would have to be one of my favorite pieces ever on this channel. Please, in the comment section below, tell me what is your favorite part of this project, and then tell me what is your favorite project even here on this channel. I would love to hear from you. To my Danie's darlings, as usual and as always, I would like to say thank you for all of your love, your comments, your questions, your feedback, but most importantly, your encouragement. Please know that none of it is wasted, and I appreciate each and every one of you out there. To those of you, however, who may not yet be a Danie's darlings because you have not yet clicked that subscribe button, we would like to humbly encourage you to join our ever-growing community of DIYers as we learn from and craft with each other on a weekly basis. And if you do decide to subscribe to our channel today, also be sure to click the notification bell to be made aware whenever any of our videos have been published, as well as anytime our community goes live on YouTube. Well, my darlings, before I leave you today, I would like to leave you with the motto to our channel, which is simply this. Say it with me. Why buy when you can DIY? And so, my darlings, my loves, until next time, I say to you, please, please, please take care of yourselves for me. Know that I love you all. Bye now.